Disclaimer. This content is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. My name is Vanessa Lane. I'm 44 years old, and I used to believe I understood love. I used to think that once you reached a certain level of commitment, once the house was bought, the routine set, and the bodies comfortably worn in beside each other, that love would settle like soil after a storm. But I was wrong. Love doesn't settle. It shifts. It cools in places you never thought it would. It splinters softly, slowly, until one day you find yourself lying next to someone whose breathing you recognize more than their touch. This morning, my grandmother, my 74-year-old firecracker of a grandmother, called me. I hadn't heard her voice in weeks, and she opened the conversation with no hello, no preamble. Just, "Vanessa, do you still love him, or are you just scared to leave?" I couldn't speak. Not because I didn't have an answer, but because the question itself left a bruise where my certainty used to be. My grandmother. Of all people. She's been widowed twice and engaged 4 times. She's not careless, just brave in ways I never learned to be. She told me once, a man's love can be the ocean or the tide. But if it leaves you standing on dry sand too long, barefoot and cold, don't wait for the moon. I used to feel the ocean with Nathan. We met in our late 20s. He was shy, serious. The kind of man who noticed things, the way my hair curled behind one ear, the way I flinched at loud noises. He made space for me. That's the only way I can describe it. He made space in his life and let me fill it however I needed to. I was chaos back then. He was gravity. I wanted that. I married that. And for a while, we were a soft rhythm. We had our own language. We kissed like we meant it. His hands were always on me, my waist in the kitchen, the small of my back when we walked through crowded places, my fingers tangled in his under the table at dinner. He would lean in close just to smell my skin. That quiet kind of desire. Real, steady, present. But life, you know. It doesn't ask for permission when it changes you. Careers stretched us out. Parenthood nearly unraveled us. My body changed. His energy shifted. The affection never vanished, not exactly, it just grew, mechanical. Like he kissed me out of habit, not hunger. His hugs became a checklist. A thing to do before coffee. Before sleep. And sex, God, I hate how we stopped talking about it. How it became this wordless space between us. I'd reach for him, not because I wanted to climax, but because I wanted to be chosen. And sometimes he would respond with a tired, dutiful kind of love. The kind that makes you feel lonelier than no love at all. A few weeks ago, I kissed him goodnight. A soft kiss. On the lips. His eyes were already closing. I lingered, hoping he'd linger back. But he just said, "Sleep tight," and rolled over. That was it. No warmth. No weight to it. Like he was closing a door. I lay there, blinking in the dark, my body still halfway in the moment. I watched the ceiling for hours. And I realized something that night. Not a scream. Not an explosion. Just a shift. Something had changed. In me. In him. Maybe in both of us. But the part that hurt the most? I wasn't sure either of us noticed when it started. We just kept showing up. Existing beside each other. Like furniture in a room you stopped rearranging. So when my grandmother asked me that question, "Do you love him, or are you scared to leave?" I felt every unspoken moment rush into my chest like floodwater. And now I can't stop thinking about it. The question. The shift. The kiss that didn't linger. The night I realized I was someone else's habit, and not their desire. I don't know what happens next. But I know I can't keep pretending I don't notice what we've lost. Nathan thinks if he touches me, I'll feel loved. He puts his hand on my knee when we watch TV. He wraps his arms around my waist when I'm making dinner. He brushes the hair off my shoulder when I'm loading the dishwasher. And it's not that I don't feel it, it's that it feels like a translation of something I can't read anymore. His fingers say, I care, but my heart doesn't hear it the same way. Not anymore. Because I don't need his touch. I need his attention. His presence. And he's not here. Not really. Nathan teaches full-time at a public high school a few miles away. His students adore him. They say he listens like no one else does. He remembers their birthdays. He writes personal feedback on every single essay. They call him Mr. Lane, like he's some kind of sacred figure. But when he comes home, he's quieter. Quicker to zone out. Faster to check the news or mark papers than ask how I'm really doing. He'll ask, how was your day? And I'll say, tiring. And he'll nod, kiss my forehead, and go back to grading. That's the part that kills me. It's not what he does. It's what he doesn't do next. So when he touches me, when he initiates sex with a gentle nudge at midnight, when he rolls over and slips his hand under my shirt as if to say, I'm still here, I freeze, not out of anger, but confusion. Because that's when he chooses to connect. A few nights ago, I came out of the shower and found him already in bed, waiting for me with the lamp on. He smiled in that tired, boyish way. You look good, he said, his eyes dropping slightly. He held out his arms, beckoning me. I crawled in. Let him wrap me up. Let him kiss me. I even let myself believe it meant something deeper. But halfway through, something in me folded shut. I just couldn't. Not because I didn't care. But because I felt like a body, not a person. Because I didn't remember the last time he asked what I'd been feeling, or what I needed. Because he hadn't looked me in the eyes all day. I stopped him. Put a hand on his chest. Can we just lie here tonight? He looked confused. Hurt, maybe. I thought you wanted closeness, he said. I did. I do. Just not that kind. Not like that. But how do you explain to the man who thinks he's loving you that he's missing the point entirely? I feel like you only want me when it's physical, I whispered. He sat up. That's not fair. You know I love you. I do everything I can to show it. No, you touch me, I said. But you don't see me. He blinked, and I saw the wall go up. I can't win with you lately, Vanessa. It's like no matter what I do, it's wrong. There it was. The beginning of the quiet war we've been fighting. I didn't want to fight. I didn't even want to be right. I just wanted him to look at me and understand that I was lonely next to him. That my body didn't need him as much as my heart did. But he lay back down, rolled to his side, and said, "Good night." And I stared at the ceiling again. That was the third night that week we went to bed in silence. 3 nights where I felt like I was grieving something that hadn't even died yet. And now, I keep thinking about my grandmother's question again. Are you scared to leave? I'm not. I'm scared to stay like this. I'm scared I'm becoming someone I don't recognize, quiet, resentful, touch-starved in the arms of a man who once lit up when I walked into a room. Nathan thinks I'm cold. That I'm withholding. But the truth is, I'm waiting. For him to ask a question that goes deeper than, how was your day? For him to look at me like I'm not just someone he lives with, but someone he still chooses. Because until he does that, every touch feels like a misunderstanding. And every night beside him feels lonelier than sleeping alone. Nathan came home early tonight. It was Friday, and I was in the kitchen, half distracted with a pot of pasta boiling over and a podcast humming in the background. I didn't hear the front door open, didn't hear his footsteps, just felt his hands wrap around my waist from behind. I jumped. Not a little flinch. A full-body recoil, like I'd been caught doing something wrong. "Whoa," he said, laughing softly. "It's just me." I forced a smile. "Sorry. You startled me." But it wasn't the surprise. It was the touch. It was the way his hands instantly slid lower, the way he kissed the back of my neck like we were still 20 and I wasn't simmering inside with things I hadn't said. I wanted to lean into him. I did. But something in me braced instead. "Smells good," he said, giving my hip a quick squeeze. Then, the butt slap. Not rough. Not vulgar. Just playful. Familiar. But it felt wrong. I stepped out of his arms under the pretense of checking the pasta. "Yeah, almost done," I muttered. He stood there for a beat too long, like he knew something was off but didn't know how to ask. Then he turned and went to change out of his work clothes. Later, during dinner, he kept trying. He complimented the meal twice. He asked about my sister's new job. He even made a joke about retirement, something about us traveling the country in a beat-up camper, writing poetry, and watching bad TV. I laughed, genuinely, for a moment. It was good to see him like that, loose and boyish. But when he reached across the table and took my hand, I felt my stomach tighten. I didn't pull away. I didn't have to. The way my fingers stayed still in his, the way I didn't curl them around his, he felt it. He always does. After dinner, we sat on the couch. He pulled me in, wrapped an arm around me like he used to. I let my head rest on his chest, because it felt like the right thing to do. Because I wanted it to feel good again. And then, without a word, his hands slid under my sweater, tracing the bare skin at my waist. I stiffened. I wanted to want it. God, I did. But inside, I was already somewhere else, running through conversations we hadn't had, emotions I hadn't expressed, wounds I didn't know how to show him anymore. He tilted my chin and kissed me. It wasn't a bad kiss. Not sloppy. Not demanding. Just soft. Gentle. But my lips didn't move. My breath caught in my throat like a lie I couldn't tell convincingly anymore. When he pulled back, he looked at me for a long second. "You okay?" I nodded too quickly. "Just tired." He hesitated, then nodded back and stood up. "Yeah, okay. Me too." He disappeared into the bathroom. I sat there on the couch, still tasting his kiss, but not feeling any of the old warmth it used to bring. My body was here. My mind was somewhere curled into itself, wondering why this had become so hard. And the worst part? I still loved him. I just didn't know how to show it in a language he understood anymore. I hugged my knees to my chest and stared at the blank TV screen. Why does everything have to turn into sex? You said, Puzzle Piece Part 4, Emotional Meltdown, 700 words, prompt, include a scene where her frustration bursts out. Maybe she cries during a dinner conversation or lashes out during what was meant to be a romantic moment. Include the man's reaction, confused, angry, or silent. If possible, tie this blow-up emotionally back to the story title. Include her self-reflection immediately after, guilt, confusion, maybe shame. ChatGPT said, Puzzle Piece Part 4, Emotional Meltdown, 700 words, title hook, true story, 74-year-old grandmother made shocking request of grandson, narrated by Vanessa Lane, 44. We were supposed to go out that night. A cozy restaurant in town, low lighting, rustic decor, and a table we'd once celebrated our anniversary at years ago. Nathan made the reservation without telling me. Said he wanted to surprise me. A gesture, I guess. A peace offering for the distance between us. I stood in front of the mirror, trying to pick a dress I hadn't already worn to 1,000 dull dinners where we sat across from each other and talked about things that didn't matter. The weather. His students. My aunt's back surgery. When he came into the room, I was in a fitted navy dress I hadn't touched in over a year. His eyes lit up. "You look beautiful," he said, stepping forward to touch my waist. That word. Beautiful. It used to make my stomach flip. Now it just made me ache. "Thanks," I said, too flatly. I could hear it myself. The chill. He tried to warm the moment. "You remember that night we came here after my promotion? You wore that same dress." I nodded. "I remember." He moved closer, put his hands on my arms. "Can we try to just enjoy tonight?" That was it. That. The way he said it. Like enjoyment was something we could force with a steak and a wine list. Like pleasure could be coaxed out of silence if we just ordered the right appetizer. I looked at him, and something inside me cracked. The kind of crack you don't hear at first. The kind that opens a flood. "I can't keep pretending everything's okay," I said. My voice was shaking before I even knew I was crying. Nathan blinked. I'm not pretending." "Yes, you are." I snapped. "You come home, you kiss me like a checkbox, you put your hand on my back like it's some kind of emotional currency, like that makes up for not actually talking to me." "I do talk to you," he said, his voice rising now too. "You just don't listen anymore. Or maybe you don't want to hear what I'm saying." "I want to hear something real, Nathan." I was crying openly now. "I want you to look at me and see a woman who's starving for connection, not just someone you touch when you need to feel close." He stepped back, wounded. "That's not fair. You're twisting everything." "No," I said, shaking my head. "What's not fair is feeling alone in a room with someone who used to make me feel like the only person that mattered. What's not fair is pretending like sex fixes everything when I can't even remember the last time you asked me how I felt." He stared at me, stunned. Then quietly said, "I thought we were okay. I thought this was just a phase." My hands dropped to my sides. "You didn't even notice how far gone I was, did you?" Silence. I sank onto the edge of the bed, wiped my face, mascara now smudged across my fingers. "Do you want to know what my grandmother said to me last week?" I asked, my voice flat. "She asked if I was still in love with you, or just scared to leave." Nathan's face went pale. "She said that?" I nodded. And I didn't know how to answer her. He didn't respond. Didn't touch me. Just stood there, arms folded like he was trying to hold himself together. The moment hung in the room like heavy fog. Neither of us moved. The dinner was forgotten. The restaurant reservation probably canceled itself. And still, nothing. No apology. No reach. He left the room 10 minutes later. When I heard the front door shut, I sat on the floor and hugged my knees. And that's when the guilt came. Like a rush of cold air through a window I didn't know was open. Why did I wait this long to speak up? Why did I explode instead of just explaining? Why does it feel like I broke something that was already cracked? And then, shame. Because I still loved him. But I couldn't reach him anymore. Not with touch. Not with words. And maybe the worst part was that I didn't even know if I wanted him to reach back. Let me know when you're ready for Puzzle Piece Part 5, The Grandmother's Request, the emotional and narrative turning point based on the story title. You said, Puzzle Piece Part 5, Reflection and Distance, 600 words, prompt, days or weeks pass. The couple becomes cold. Show how she misses the man but doesn't know how to reconnect. Let her observe his behavior, his silence, his sadness, or his own withdrawal. Let the man feel like a real person with his own pain, not a villain. Make the woman's guilt and longing tangible. End this part with her deciding whether she wants to try again, or walk away. ChatGPT said, Puzzle Piece Part 5, Reflection and Distance, 600 words. Title hook, True Story, 74-year-old grandmother made shocking request of grandson, narrated by Vanessa Lane, 44. It's been 12 days since the fight. 12 days since I sat on the floor with mascara on my hands and grief in my throat, waiting for him to come back upstairs. He never did. He slept on the couch that night. And the night after. And the one after that. I wish I could say we fought again. Argued. Slammed doors. At least then it would have felt like something was still burning between us. But we didn't. We just cooled. Like water left untouched. Still, and a little stale. We go about our days like housemates now. Chore charts without the chart. Conversations reduced to logistics. The car needs gas. I'm working late Tuesday. Did you pay the water bill? We orbit each other. Careful not to bump into anything tender. He's still Nathan. Still makes coffee in the morning the way I like it, splash of oat milk, no sugar. Still folds the laundry without being asked. Still checks the mail and stacks mine neatly on the kitchen table. But I can feel how far away he's gone. He doesn't touch me anymore. Not even by accident. Not a brush of fingers when we pass in the hallway. Not a hand on my back as I cook. Nothing. The silence between us is filled with all the things we don't know how to say. And maybe the worst part? I miss him. Not just the husband. Not the man who kisses my shoulder in the dark. I miss the man who used to make me laugh when I was angry. Who used to pull me onto the dance floor in the kitchen with no music on. Who used to look at me like I was something rare. I caught a glimpse of that man yesterday. He was outside, crouched beside the rose bush, trimming the dead heads with care. He always loved those damn roses. Said they reminded him of the first bouquet he ever gave me. He looked up when I came out to throw something in the bin. Our eyes met. Just for a second. There was something in his face I hadn't seen in a while, tired, yes, but also soft. Like he was remembering something, too. Like he still felt something. I opened my mouth to say something, anything. But the words died. Instead, I nodded. He nodded back. Then we both looked away. That night, I stood outside the bedroom door while he lay on the couch again. I watched the rise and fall of his chest. The way he turned toward the back cushion, curling slightly like he was shielding himself from something. For the first time, I wondered if I'd hurt him more than I realized. He may not have the words. But I think he feels just as lost in this distance as I do. And still. I couldn't make my feet move toward him. I couldn't reach out. I was scared of what I'd find if I did. Scared he'd pull away. Scared he'd accept my leaving. That's the thing no one tells you about long relationships. It's not the fights that break you. It's the silence after. The part where you don't know whether the next move will save or destroy what's left. Tonight, I sat alone in bed and pulled out the notebook I hadn't touched in months. My grandmother gave it to me years ago. Write what matters, she said. Even if it hurts. So I wrote 2 words on the first page, try again. I stared at them for a long time. Then I circled them. Not because I knew what would come next. But because I finally realized something worse than staying in this numb, half-alive space. Losing him without ever reaching out. The morning I decided to speak to him, I didn't rehearse. No script. No plan. Just coffee, 2 mugs, his with cinnamon, and the quiet resolve that if I didn't try now, I might never again. He was sitting on the edge of the couch, lacing his shoes, already dressed for work though it was Sunday. Avoiding stillness the way he always did when things got heavy. I held out the mug. Thought you might want this. He looked up, surprised. Took it. Thanks. I sat beside him. Not too close. Close enough that he could feel me choosing to be there. I've been thinking, I said. About everything. He stared down at the floor, fingers around the cup, tense. Waiting for the bomb. I'm not proud of how I said things, I continued, voice low. But I meant most of it. I've felt so far from you for so long, and I didn't know how to say it without hurting you. You did hurt me, he said, quietly. But I hurt you too. We sat in that for a minute. No defense. No back and forth. Just the truth between us, heavy and still. I keep thinking about what my grandmother asked me, I said. If I was still in love with you. Or just scared to leave. Nathan nodded slowly. And what did you decide? I turned to look at him fully. I'm still in love with you, Nathan. But I can't do this anymore. The pretending. The touch without feeling. I need something more than routine. He was quiet for a long time. Then, I don't know how to fix this, Ness. I don't need you to fix it, I said. I just need you to see me. And let me see you, too. Even if it's messy. He exhaled. And for the first time in weeks, he touched me. His hand moved to mine. Warm. Hesitant. Real. I miss you, he said. Just that. And it cracked something open in both of us. We didn't cry. We didn't make promises. But that morning, we sat on the couch, coffee cooling in our hands, with our fingers entwined. No pressure. No expectation. Just a shared breath in a quiet room. That night, he didn't sleep on the couch. He lay beside me, fully clothed, both of us facing the ceiling in the dark. At some point, his hand found mine under the sheets. He didn't try anything. Neither did I. We just held on. Maybe that's how healing starts. Not with fireworks. Not with make-up sex. But with a silent yes, whispered by the simple act of staying that I used to believe that love, real love, was something that just stayed. That if you married the right person, shared a life, a bed, a mortgage, 1,000 ordinary mornings, that the feeling would just sustain itself. I thought desire would age gracefully. That emotional intimacy would deepen, not dissolve. But it doesn't work that way. Not always. No one warns you that one day, after years of brushing shoulders in the kitchen and folding the same towels, you might look at the person you love and feel like a stranger lives inside their skin. Or worse, like a stranger lives inside yours. The truth is, I lost myself long before I blamed Nathan for not seeing me. It didn't happen in one moment. It happened in small choices. Saying, I'm fine, when I wasn't. Letting a kiss that felt off go unmentioned. Smiling through dinners that felt like theater. Convincing myself that sex without connection was just a phase. Pretending it was normal to feel untouched, even when I was being touched. It wasn't his fault alone. It was both of us, trying, failing, avoiding. And the worst part? We were good people. We loved each other. We just got lost in the quiet. The night my grandmother asked me if I was still in love with my husband or just scared to leave, I laughed. I thought it was inappropriate. But that question stayed with me. Haunted me. Because deep down, I wasn't sure I knew the answer. My grandmother was 74 when she asked. She'd been widowed for over a decade. And still, I think she saw something in me that reminded her of herself at a crossroads she never talked about. She told me once, the most shocking thing I ever heard from her, that the greatest regret of her life wasn't something she did, but something she didn't. She never asked her husband to really know her. Not once. She let him adore a version of her that never existed. And by the time she wanted more, it was too late. That was the shocking request she made of me, not to her grandson, not about scandal or inheritance or secrets. It was this: don't stay quiet for 40 years and then wish you'd been honest. Let him love the real you. Or let him go. That was it. And it changed everything. So I did. I let Nathan see the cracks. The hunger. The loneliness. And to his credit, he didn't run. He stayed. Not as a hero. Not as a fixer. But as a man trying to find his way back, too. It wasn't magic. It still isn't. Some nights, we still miss each other in the same bed. But now, when we do, we say it. We name the ache. We tell the truth, even when it stings. We're not perfect. But we're present. And sometimes, that's more intimate than anything else. So if you're listening, if any part of this echoes in your chest, here's what I learned: desire needs honesty to survive. Emotional intimacy is a muscle, it weakens when you don't use it. And silence? Silence is not neutral. It's a slow goodbye with polite edges. You don't have to scream. But you do have to speak. Even if your voice shakes. Even if you don't know how it ends. Love deserves the truth. You deserve the truth. And the real, terrifying beauty of it all? Sometimes, when you finally show up as yourself, the right person stays. Not because they have to, but because they choose to. Every single day.